Alright guys, welcome back again to more of the Hungry Lamb. After that surprising conflict between Liang and Tong, we now have the aftermath of what's left to come and how both Liang and Manchu will handle it. So I'm kind of curious to see how things are going to go from there. And I'm actually hoping, and I'm pretty sure it's actually going to go the way I'm thinking, where he'll end up taking care of all the girls and possibly adopting them down the line. But we'll see how this goes, so if anything else, hope you all continue to enjoy. Thank you again for love and support. And here we go. I picked up a piece of meat about the size of my hand and tossed it into the first wooden basin. There were two basins in front of me. One for the meat and bones, and the other for everything else. The last barefooted carried a water basin cleaning up the bloodstains around me. The smell of blood in the bathhouse was strong, making my head spin and my stomach churn. Even though I was used to blood, I felt queasy at the moment. The last proposal really caught me off guard. For the time of half an incense stick, I didn't dare do it. Now, we've been busy for nearly 2 hours. About 2 hours ago, she came up with an idea for handling the body. The body of Tong needed to be taken outside the city and can't be buried near the inn. We needed to make the body look less conspicuous and get rid of the strong smell of blood. She said that we should treat the body like we do pork. We can cut the body of Tong into small pieces. The meaty parts, like pork, are cooked and tied up in a bag, then taken out of the city on the horse. As for the non-meat parts, I'll gather them in the wooden tub, crush them up, mix them together, and dump them into the inn cesspool. It's almost as if this isn't our first time doing this. The stinky cesspool should mask the bloody smell. The small parts would also be well hidden within it. Even if people in the inn get suspicious, it will be difficult for them to check. I'm almost done chopping up the meat. Is the hot water ready?
不久前刚去添过柴，大概是烧好了，我去看看。
Alright, you go fetch the water then. Be careful not to trip and scald yourself if you fall.
好，谢谢良爷提醒。
Mansui nodded obediently and went to fetch the hot water. The water had been heating for a while, and I told her to keep it going until it was bubbling. We planned to use it for boiling the meat. Initially, we thought of using the inn's kitchen, but it was locked up tight all night by the waiter. Plus, the kitchen's pot wasn't big enough for all the meat, and cooking in batches would take too long. Besides, it was near where the waiter was sleeping, and we didn't want to wake him up. Then Mansui came up with an idea. She suggested blocking the bathhouse water pool temporarily, filling it with hot water, and using that to cook the meat. Mansui cautiously carried a basin of hot water, walking barefoot through the bathhouse. With a splash, he poured the hot water into the pool. The bubbling water spread evenly across the surface, causing the level to rise slightly. Steam rose from the soup, distorting the air around it. Thankfully, this was meant for cooking meat. If it were for bathing, even a moment in it would likely peel all your skin off. Mansui paced back and forth a few times, until the water level in the pool had finally reached a usable level. She wiped her forehead and sat down to rest. Seeing she was tired, I didn't push her. I sat beside the tank tossing the meat in and asked, "How'd you come up with this idea?" I lightly asked her. It's tough to picture a kid that young coming up with such a scary plan.
以前的时候，家里死了一只小猪仔，妈妈饿了，就把小猪仔放锅里给煮了吃。煮了后，猪仔明显比原来要小了，味道也不腥了。我一直记得很清楚。
Mansui sat, hugging her knees, head resting on them. Watching the meat in the water, she spoke to me. Her eyes, as if she were remembering something, were empty and cold. I heard Tung say if you end up at the swine demon's, he'd chow down on you. Do you reckon he'd munch on you raw or cook you up?
不知道，大概是生吃吧。
Why do you figure that?
肉煮了后，就看不出是人样了。他那样的人，估计是想看着我们的模样吃，只是一口气吃不完，能吃多少吃多少，剩下的大概会丢了吧。
She continued, extrapolating her guesses. Hard to imagine analyzing stuff like this is suited to her age. Felt odd chatting with her. Wow, she lied about it being a pig instead of her cat, right? Though she looked 9, yet was in fact 11 years old, and her insights gave the impression of someone closer to my age. During the dismemberment of Tung's body earlier, I couldn't stand it, looking away and feeling the urge to vomit. She, on the other hand, remained cool, sorting the body parts as if they were just meat. Sometimes she'd cough from the smell, but that was it. I was getting more curious. Was she really from a regular farming family? What kind of experiences could make someone her age like this? Heard something at a tavern once. There are people in this world who are born undead. Undead people have no feelings, don't cry, don't laugh, don't fear. They can do anything calmly, just like grown-ups, even when they're kids. Scary stuff. No way, she wasn't like them undead types. When I spoke to her before, she seemed genuinely scared, not putting on a show. And when she played with other lambs, she seemed genuinely happy. It's like she got both the innocence of a child and the maturity of an adult. Strange. And also, if perfected, deadly. This last was too strange. I kept thinking about her, but my hands didn't stop, repeatedly throwing chunks of meat into the water. Tossing and tossing until there was nothing left in the wooden basin. I moved Tung from one place to another. Piece by piece, he went into the water. The fat ones floated up, the thin ones sank down, reminding me of frogs bobbing up and down in the water. Tung. Though it might sound hypocritical to say so, seeing him like that, I did feel a bit sad. Even if he was killed, he wouldn't have wanted to end up like that. I shouldn't have let it happen, even if I killed him. Maybe only that swine demon who eats live kids deserves such a fate. But how could that be possible? Some people were born into wealth and privilege, destined for a life of luxury. No matter how far they fell, they still wouldn't end up being cooked right. The meat looks cooked white. We'll have to bag it soon. After cooking it for a while longer, I noticed that meat was almost done, so I talked to Mansui beside me.
Huh.
She softly replied, her eyes still fixed on the rolling meat. After bagging it up, we'll need to clean this place too. The blood smells too strong. Got to scrub it off.
Huh.
She nodded in agreement. Tonight, you'll sleep in my room. Tomorrow, we'll rouse the lambs and explain. She nodded. The last was likely worn out. She was keeping her responses short and to the point. Asking her anything, I'd just get a quick answer. She looked tired. Maybe all the lambs are like that. They want to sleep when it's time.
Liang.
She suddenly spoke as if wanting to tell me something. What's up?
我有点饿。
Can't get into the inn's kitchen. I'll get you some rations later.
不用，虽然饿，但什么东西也不想吃。
Fair enough.
等都忙完后，我们洗个澡吧。
Okay. After a quick break, we resumed work once the meat was cooked. I packed the cooked meat into a bag and dumped the rest into a cesspool. She cleaned the blood-stained tub and scrubbed the bathhouse repeatedly. When we finished all that, we took a bath in the bathhouse. I used the tub, she used the bucket, both of us washing separately. Maybe we were just too tired and wanted to finish quickly and go to bed. Maybe it was just dissecting Tung's body together. Me and the last, we were used to each other. We weren't shy anymore. What an odd way to bond. After our bath, we only slept for about an hour. Shortly after returning to our room, the sky outside began to lighten, with distant bells followed by roosters and dogs barking. If anything, I'm more surprised they could sleep after doing all that. That's something that would traumatize the both of them, even Mansui. I woke up first, then nudged the last beside me, and went next door to wake up the other lambs. I gathered them to discuss our next moves. Listen up, plans have changed. We're not heading to Liang for now. I solemnly announced the new plan to the lambs. They looked at each other, then back at me speechless. Pack up, we're heading to North Haizao. Once we're there, I'll announce our next move.
梁爷，
Suddenly, Q called out to me, sounding worried. What's up? I frowned slightly.
之前三爷说了，去洛阳才能吃饱饭，那里有 吃不完的馒头。
是啊，梁爷，不是要去洛阳吗？为啥突然又不去了？
The two sisters seemed really down. I figured Yin-san and Tung had been lying to them for a while. They kept saying Liang would be a paradise with endless food. Liang with its endless steamed buns had become their dream. How do I break it to them gently? Let them know Liang's a good spot, but once they're there, they'll be devoured alive? If I told them straight up, they wouldn't get it. Might not even buy it. I froze. Didn't know how to break it to them.
梁爷听说在洛阳城收我们的人不是好人，便改变主意，要把我们送去好人那里了。
Thanks for the assist, Mansui.
放心吧，去亥州的生活一定比去洛阳更好。梁爷是不会骗我们的。
Just when I didn't know what to tell the sisters, the last spoke up for me. Q and Hong widened their eyes looking at Mansui.
是啊，穗儿姐都这么说了，就信梁爷吧。虽然我也想去洛阳，但既然梁爷说去亥州更好，那自然是更好的。
Chonghua smiled, reassuring the sisters.
好，既然姐姐们都这么说了，那我和翠儿就放心了，不去就不去了吧。
翠儿信梁爷，梁爷是好人。
Hong and Q smiled at me, especially Q, who looked at me with trust in her eyes. I paused, feeling a warm sensation in my chest, unable to find the words. I couldn't deny it. Being trusted like this felt pretty good. Plans might have to change again for you, huh, Liang? Afterward, I untied the lambs. I got some fruit from the inn and gave it to them to eat before planning to leave. Before leaving, I asked Mansui to watch over the lambs and went back to the bathhouse. After airing it out, most of the blood and strange smell had gone away, though there was still a faint odd smell. Since this place didn't usually have many guests, it shouldn't raise the waiter's suspicions for him to investigate. I double-checked for any bloodstains. Once I was completely at ease, I led the lambs out of the inn. As I hit the streets of Shanzhou and loaded and cooked meat onto the pack horse, however, two strange characters caught my attention. They were standing at the inn's entrance. One fat and tall, the other skinny and short, dressed like caravan guards with mean looks in their faces. The fat guy stood 9 feet tall, bearing a ferocious look. It was immediately apparent that he was the difficult-to-deal type. While the skinny one had a shifty look in his eyes, one could tell that he wasn't good either. I led the lambs out, Mansui leading one pack horse while I led the other. Their eyes stayed glued to us, slowly moving as we walked. Something was off. Who were they?
Oi, 站住!
Ah, they know frickin' Tung, that's why. Just as I started to wonder, the fat guy called out. I stopped and the other lambs followed suit. What's up?
哎，认识石星吗？
He asked me in a low voice. I didn't reply immediately. Cold sweat beaded on my forehead and palms. No good. This guy was shady. Xixing was Tung's real name. This guy was probably called over by Tung. Don't know him. Who's Xixing? I forced myself to stay calm, speaking coldly to the fat guy. He didn't answer, just glared at me harder.
你们是从哪里来的？
Why should I tell you? He kept asking, and I got annoyed, snapping at him. At the same time, I reached for the blade on the pack horse, ready to draw. Shanzhou is no small village. Drawing blades in the streets is forbidden, but this inn's location was remote. It'd be a while before the city guards arrived. If possible, I didn't want to start a fight with this guy. But if he really was Tung's man, if he found out I'd taken out Tung, then I'd have to fight him right here. What's that fat guy packing? He has a short blunt weapon on his back. He's built like a tank, so close combat isn't in my favor. But if I can draw my blade first, I might catch him off guard.
好了，大锤，别为难人家。
Just as things were heating up, the skinny guy called out the fat guy's name, stopping him.
这大哥都说了不认识石星，就是不认识了，你纠缠他做什么？
Oh, this one is playing smart. I keep my eye on him too.
他带着崽子从这家客栈出来，肯定也是跑生意的，别碍了人家的财路。
可我们不也是来接崽子的活的？石星那次都说了，这里有大活。他说鸡打明儿时就和我们在这儿会合，人影儿都没见。我问问这人不行啊？
去，肚子傻，我教你的都忘了。 你娘都说了，出来混就该听我的，少说话多做事。哥，这莫见怪啊，莫见怪。
The fat guy and the skinny guy argued some more, then the skinny guy apologized to me. No big deal. Inn's open. If you're searching for someone, you can check inside. I calmly told the skinny guy, giving them a hint.
嘿嘿，好嘞，哥，我们一会儿就去。
The skinny guy agreed and then pulled the fat guy to stand at a distance. Then they kept their eyes on the inn. Let's go. Everything's settled. I told Mansui and the other lambs. If you're not careful, man, they're gonna follow you. So we set off again on our journey. We're headed to outside Shanzhou, then up north to Jin, and finally to Haizhou. I reckon those two, one fat and one skinny, were probably hired by Tung. They might be caravan guards or bandits. I had a guess about why they were here. That proposal Tung cooked up for me last night was just a con. He was just trying to keep me calm so I wouldn't fight back. Come the next day he'd bring them in, ready to take me out, and let those two take over my job. Ah, Tung. You haven't changed one bit. Speaking of that, those two are pretty interesting. The fat guy acts tough, the skinny guy talks smooth. The fat guy throws fists and the skinny guy smooths things over. Kind of feels like me and Tung, exactly. Brings back some memories. What do you think? Thinking about it, I couldn't resist leaning towards the pack horse and whispering softly. Of course, there'd be no response from either the horse or the bags on its back. Closest to me, Xianghua heard my voice and gave me a curious glance, wondering why I suddenly started talking to myself. At this moment, perhaps only Mansui and I knew the truth. That I wasn't talking to myself. That I was talking to a recently departed partner. That he was lying in pieces in a pack horse right now. And that his flesh danced with the horse's movement as we embarked on our journey out of the city. Excuse me. I took the lambs and left Shanzhou. Leaving the city was easier than expected. The guards at the gate didn't bother to ask questions. One of them looked tired, just waved us through as if driving flies away, making our prepared stories pointless. Once outside, we headed north towards Haizhou, about 30 miles away. Taking these lambs to Haizhou would take at least 3 days. Another long journey ahead. We'll likely be in the mountains for the next few days. The silver moon shone bright and the stars scattered across the sky. At night, we lit a campfire, and I gave the lambs their food. Once they finished eating, I grabbed the shovel from the pack horse's bundle, ready to complete a task I had left undone. We're far from any towns here, so anything buried won't be easily discovered. I'm planning to bury Tung. The shovel lifted the tough soil, dust swirling. I dug beneath the tree. Once the hole was ready, I unpacked the meat and dropped it in piece by piece. With the meat buried, I then filled the hole with the shovel. After burying people before, I usually split quick to meet up with Tung. But this time, after burying him, I didn't leave immediately. Instead, I stuck the shovel in the ground and stared at the freshly made mound for a long while. I even sat down, keeping the company of the buried guy for a spell. Didn't do much, just kept my eyes locked in that hole. Life sure throws some curveballs, huh? Never imagined I'd be here with Tung like this. The person who would previously wait for my return is now resting right before my eyes. After the deed was done, I headed back. After 50 steps, I was back at camp. Xianghua approached me, seeming like she had something on her mind.
梁爷，
What's up?
有点困了，想去睡觉。
Sure, go ahead.
可是绳子还没绑。
Xianghua motioned to her waist, showing it was bare without any ropes. As a rule, I would have tied ropes on them before they slept. She wanted to remind me so I wouldn't forget. Never mind. No more ropes. Tying and untying you every day is a hassle. Unless we're tackling steep slopes, no more ropes. I let Xianghua and the others know about the new rule. Xianghua looked surprised, and the other lambs gathered around curious.
哎，梁爷，星爷去哪儿了？
He go far away. Hong asked me curious. Since last night's meal, she hadn't seen Tung, nor had I mentioned him. We had a fight yesterday and he got mad and left.
星爷之后不回来了吗？
Nope, he won't.
星爷，
Hong dropped her head looking downcast. What, you still want him around?
我还是希望星爷在的。星爷一开始的时候特别凶，但是最近几天就像是变了一个人，开始对我们好了。
Well, he wasn't good from the goodness of his heart, that's for sure. He was only like that because he was feeling guilty. At the end of the day, he still wanted to go through with the mission, so... I mean, I can't blame Hong for feeling that way though, like she said. It was such a switch in personality.
昨天你和水姐姐快回来的时候，他还是等到了洛阳，要给我买小玩物的。
It was all an act. Playthings? Who knows if he'd actually get any? He just wanted you to go to Liang. Don't trust him.
啊，真的是这样吗？
I subconsciously argued against Hong, trying to remind him that Tung wasn't a good person. But then I thought, no need to go further. She's too young to get it. And Tung already buried in peace. Why disturb him? Enough talk for tonight. Time to go to bed. We'll have a long journey tomorrow. I yelled out to the lamb, signaling an end to the conversation with Hong. They obediently settled down to sleep after hearing this. I stared at the fire, just about to doze off, when a thought hit me. Back when Tung was here, we took turns staying awake. When I slept, he stayed up, and vice versa. But now that he's gone, there's no one to take turns with. Now that I think about it, maybe we don't need shifts anymore. Before, we took turns to keep an eye on the lambs to stop them from running off while we slept. But now we built trust with each other, so there's no need to worry about them running away. So, the only real reason remaining for shifts is to watch out for bandits and beasts. At night, bandits hardly ever move through the mountains, and the road from Shanzhou to Haizhou is pretty safe. And beasts usually steer clear of fire, so there's not much to worry about from them.
良夜，睡不着吗？
As I stared into the fire, Mansui's voice came from the other side. She was across the fire from me, looking at me with a smile. No, about to turn in. I was just getting sleepy, and then you woke me up.
这么早睡，今天不打算做点什么吗？
You mean shadow play? I realized what she wanted to do with me. Along the way, she had taught me shadow play. But without the right items, like drums and gongs, our performances felt incomplete. And we couldn't make puppets without extra sticks and donkey hides, so we could only perform the three heroes battle Lu Bu. I bought everything we needed while in Shanzhou, but with so much happening these past 2 days, I forgot all about it. Now that we have everything, are we going to learn tonight? Despite getting a little sleep last night, I felt quite awake. Let's learn tonight. Well, let's find a spot. I told Mansui, then dug out the wooden box and drum from the pack horse. I handed the drum to Mansui and carried the wooden box myself, walking with her away from the camp. It's funny, you could have included the group, but then again, they're already sleeping, right? We found a spot about 50 steps from camp. I unpacked the wooden box and set up the frame and the white screen, while Mansui fetched fire from our main camp to light a new one. Once the flames flickered to life, I glanced around. Oddly, I had a feeling. The more I looked at the tree beside me, the more it looked like the one where I had buried Tung earlier. Too much of a coincidence. Venturing 50 steps into the night only to end up back here. Could it be Tung's spirit, wanting to watch our performance? After all, both Mansui and I kept it a secret from him. He'd never seen it before.
良夜，今晚想学什么？
I want to cover all the topics I couldn't learn before, like making puppets and drumming.
好，那先学制作小人吧。良夜想做什么样的小人？
Not sure. Name me some plays.
我会的戏也不多，只会三英战吕布、武松打虎、哪吒闹海。
Are those all your dad taught you?
对啊，我又不是要做戏子的，用不着这手艺来谋生。爹爹便只教了这3个。
Alright, let's do Wu Song Fights the Tiger. Let's make the tiger first. I told Mansui what I wanted and she nodded before getting to work. Mansui sat on the ground with the wooden box in front of her. One by one, she picked up all the necessary items from the wooden box. A small knife, 2 brushes, 3 pieces of donkey hide, and 4 bottles of dye. After taking out the items, she closed the lid of the box and spread the donkey hide on top. Using her fingers, she smoothed out the hide, then pressed down with her knuckles and rubbed it repeatedly. Once the donkey hide was all flat, she took out one of the brushes. It had a really sharp tip, probably for sketching. She stared blankly at the donkey hide for a moment before she started to draw. Using the fine brush, she carefully outlined the tiger's general shape on the donkey hide. Then went on to add details like the tiger's tail, head, and limbs. Before long, I saw she had roughly drawn the tiger's appearance. Is this supposed to be the tiger? Looks more like a sick cat to me. Standing aside, I commented with a frown. The last tiger drawing has all its limbs and some resemblance, but it lacks patterns and presence.
一会儿镂刻上色完成后，就像大虫啦。
Mansui explained it to me. Then she started the next step, carving. She took a deep breath, grabbed the small knife nearby. She held down the hide with her left hand and pressed the tip of the small knife onto it with her right. With focused attention, she kept the knife steady while gently guiding the hide with her other hand. The hide was pushed around the tip, and with strenuous effort, the piece she had outlined with thin strokes was peeled from the hole bit by bit. Huh, impressive craftsmanship. Must have helped your dad plenty before. I couldn't help but give praise. Matsui got startled by my sudden noise. Excuse me. With a bit too much strength, her left hand made the knife tip nick the tiger's throat. The hide tiger seemed as if its throat had been cut, with the head and body split apart, just like tongue buried nearby.
完了，这张漏废了，都怪梁爷突然和我说话。
Mansui looked down at the donkey hide on the wooden box, feeling disappointed. She blamed me, and she had a point. I didn't expect that carving required so much concentration. Sorry, you can carve another. I quietly apologized to her. She didn't answer me, just took out another piece of donkey hide and started carving on the wooden box. This time, she was more focused, drawing first with the brush, then carving with the knife. Maybe she was nervous. Sweat began to appear on her forehead. Her eyelashes trembled, but she didn't blink. I stayed aside quietly, not saying anything. It was dead quiet around us, but if you listened carefully, you could hear more. The rustling of the wind sweeping through the trees, the crackling of the flame burning in the campfire, the continuous chirping of bugs, and the held breaths we deliberately muffled. All of them were fairly clear. After carefully carving the new tiger she drew, she picked up another brush. This brush had a thicker stroke. She opened the dye bottle, dipped the brush in a bit of water, then dipped it into the dye, and carefully applied it to the donkey hide tiger.
这里是红色，这里是茶色，这里则是黑色。
She leaned over the wooden box, quietly singing as she was painting. At that moment, she was rather childlike. Soon after, the tiger was filled with color.
梁爷，做好了。
After finishing the coloring, she put the brush down. Let me see. I stepped up to her and checked out her artwork. Not too shabby. She crafted a big tiger crouched on the ground. The tiger's head is really expressive, with a mean look in its eyes. Just a tad skinny though. Kinda resembling a mean cat. Not bad. Ready to try Wusong next? I praised her and was eager to see her go on to craft Wusong.
武松不好做。
Didn't expect her to look worried all of a sudden. Why is that?
看过的那3场戏，走兽我基本都会画，但不会画人。
Doesn't that mean that besides the tiger, you can't draw anything else?
也不是啊，我还会画赤兔马呢。
Seems like she wasn't too sure about drawing people. Isn't there the Lubu puppet in that box? Why not try copying that?
身形倒是能临摹的相似，但我不知道武松长什么样，该怎么办呀？
That's a problem, isn't it? I let out a sigh. We fell into a short silence.
梁叶，我想到一个主意。
She suddenly perked up again. What's the idea? I looked over at her.
我可以照着梁叶画武松。
You think I look like Wusong?
不知道，但想试试看。我画画一直都没有什么想法，若是空想，什么也画不出来；可若是照着临摹，10分能有9分像。
Alright. Sure, give it a shot. Since she was in the mood to draw, and I was keen to see Wusong as well, so I had her give using me as a model for drawing a shot. 10 out of 10. I'd like to see what she'd come up with copying my countenance then. I sat down before her. She sat too, then spread out another piece of donkey hide. She scrutinized me carefully, her eyes stuck on me. At first, I thought we were staring at each other down, so I glanced away uneasily, trying to look at her out of the corner of my eye. But then I saw she wasn't staring at me. She was really scanning my face, my shoulders, my whole figure, before she started sketching Wusong. Got to admit, she was putting her heart into the work when it came to drawing those puppets. What kind of Wusong would she make modeled after me? After an intense stake of time, she finished drawing Wusong. I glanced at her newly colored Wusong. This Wusong really resembled me. Every detail from the eyes to the nose, and even the hairstyle and expression was the same. The only difference might be that the puppet in the shadow play seemed to have a broader shoulders and wore a tiger skin skirt. If we didn't mind that Wusong was wearing a tiger skin skirt before he even fought the tiger, this puppet was quite well done. It looked pretty lifelike, evoking Wusong's fierce determination and boldness. I guess she might have recalled my expression from when I killed Tong yesterday and depicted it like that. Lovely. Looks good. Some parts look like me, others like Wusong. I gave praise to her drawing and she seemed happier. With all the puppets done, do we string them onto the bamboo sticks next?
还不行，染料还得干一干，等干透了后，还要裁剪一番才能穿到竹签上。
Alright, seems like we won't be performing the new play tonight. Should get some sleep now.
梁叶呢？不回去睡吗？
Not tired yet. Strike while the iron's hot. Wanna try your method and make her red hair for Lubu.
那我也先不睡了，陪一会儿梁叶，帮你看看。
Alright. I sat down, and so did she, watching me draw.
梁叶，用这个，动刀前要先用细笔画一遍。
She gave me the fine brush. I took it. One hand on the donkey hide, the other ready to draw. But after waiting for a long time, all I managed was a single dot on the hide. Nope. You better head back and hit the hay. Can't get anything done with someone watching. I awkwardly said to Mansui. It's true. With her staring at me, I just couldn't get the brush moving. As an adult, if my drawing turned out worse than this last, it'd be pretty embarrassing. And to be fair, I'll give her Wusong, which I admit was actually pretty good 9 out of 10. I figure I just don't have the drawing talent.
好，那我去睡了，梁叶也要早睡。
Matsui said, nodding at my awkwardness before heading back towards the camp. Whew. Finally, I'm alone now. So, how do I draw red hair? I thought hard, remembering the stagecoach horses I had seen, and started sketching. And the next day. Last night after finishing drawing red hair, I went back to camp to sleep. I slept restlessly without Tongue to take shifts with. I kept feeling like someone might come by, every rustle catching my attention, so I didn't sleep well and had a dreamless night. With the morning sun hit me, I set out again with the lambs. As we walked, I thought about the shadow play and what was next for the lambs. The sun rose high, then dipped behind the peaks. We traveled north for 6 or 7 hours and arrived again at nightfall.
梁叶，梁叶，我想看看你昨天做的赤兔马。
Another night went by. Later that night, after the other lambs had gone to sleep, Mansui and I returned to our second camp 50 steps away. Once we had the fire going, she was all eager to check out the red hair I drew yesterday. Could be better, I said plainly, pulling out the red hair from the wooden box and passing it to her. She took the red hair, examining it cautiously.
大致不错，挺有赤兔马的感觉。 就是少了点。
Let me have a check. I fetched the Lubu puppet from the wooden box and held it up beside the red hare. It's true, the horse I made was a bit small. Lubu looked twice as big as the horse, riding with a strong grip like he was carrying it along as they ran. It may give him a sense of power as he rides, but it looks like the horse could easily be crushed. Not very realistic. Yep, it's a tad small. I'll sketch out another red hare later, but first, got something to ask you.
什么呢？
How do you play the drums?
哦，锣鼓很好奏的，弟弟教过我，随着演出的节奏，把握重要的时机就好。人物登场的时候要奏得稳一些，打斗的时候奏得快一些，说词儿的时候奏得缓一些。
Got it. I'll give it a shot next time. She explained it straightforwardly. Makes sense now. If it weren't for the risk of waking up the sleeping lambs, I'd give it a shot. But before trying out the drums, I'm more eager to see her perform a bit. How about you perform Wu Song Fights the Tiger? I suggested to Mansui.
好。
She nodded and began organizing the items needed for the performance. She took out the bamboo sticks and threaded the puppets onto them. To help her start the show faster, I also set up the wooden sticks and the white screen. Oh, she's gonna sing? Mansui put on a show of Wu Song Fights the Tiger for me. This time, she hummed softly as she performed. But it was obvious she wasn't as familiar with the words of Wu Song Fights the Tiger as she was with the Three Heroes Battle Lubu. A few times she forgot the words and just kept humming instead. I watched closely how she manipulated the puppets and imagined the drum beats in my mind. Oh, this time we didn't hear her. Later, at her request, I copied her moves and performed a bit myself. She watched carefully and gave me tips.
梁叶学东西还挺快的，有模有样的。
You're a good teacher too. Today was quite something. Just a pity we didn't try the drums to avoid waking the lambs.
那我们再跑远点，去试试看。
Well, never mind. We shouldn't go too far, lest we lose sight of the camp. Gotta keep an eye in case beasts attack the camp or a fire breaks out.
那梁叶，我倒有一个想法，
What's that? What do you have in mind?
明天要不要让他们看我们演影子戏啊？
Yeah, I was just thinking that. Since Tongue isn't around anymore, you're free to do whatever. Mansui's eyes sparkled as she proposed. I thought about it for a moment. Yeah, that could be good. We started doing shadow play secretly in order to avoid Tongue. But now that Tongue was miles away, we didn't have to worry about hiding anymore. Oh, this is gonna be interesting. Hey, wanna see some shadow play? On the third night since leaving Shanzhou, after handing out rations, I suddenly brought it up to the lambs. They all turned their heads and looked at me curiously.
梁爷，影子戏是啥？
影子戏是啥？好吃吗？
Hong seemed clueless about what shadow play is. Q wasn't just clueless, she even assumed shadow play was some kind of food.
我知道影子戏，梁叶竟然会演。
After I spoke, Xianghua asked curiously. Whew, at least her question made me feel a bit less awkward. I've been practicing with the last for a bit. Now we're almost set to perform together, so we figured we'd invite you all to watch. Excuse me. I nodded towards Mansui beside me.
对，我和梁叶好几个晚上都在练，练了好久了。
Mansui nodded as well.
好啊，你们演吧，很想看四儿姐和梁叶演的戏。
想看影子戏？
想吃影子戏。
I want to eat shadow fillet. The lambs all seem really excited, although Q might not quite get what shadow play is yet. Okay, let's start with the Three Heroes Battle Lubu. I told the lambs, then took the wooden box off the pack horse. I set up the sticks, hung the white screen, and put the puppets on the bamboo sticks. Before we had to sneak away to do these things, but now we can do it openly for the lambs to enjoy.
梁叶，那你来操演，我来奏锣鼓。
Sure, and when you play the drums, it would be nice if you could sing a bit.
我唱不好。
Matsui hesitated, picking up the drums while glancing at me anxiously. Give it a shot. Just to set the mood, you can sing softly. I told Matsui and she nodded in agreement. While adjusting the frame, I saw her quietly mouthing the words as if practicing singing secretly. Again and again, she concentrated her efforts on practicing diligently. Seems like she really wants to sing well for these lambs. I'm ready. After everything was said, I whispered to her. Then I sat behind the white screen, hiding myself. Mansui sat next to me, holding the drum. Excuse me. The lambs in front of the screen by the fire looked on with eager eyes. Whew. In my left hand, I held 2 bamboo sticks, guiding Zhang Fei's serpent spear into battle. With 2 more sticks in my right hand, I steered his legs and horse, urging him onward. Then, rhythmic drumming filled the air. I looked over and saw Mansui starting to drum. As the drums rolled, she chimed in with her voice. This time, though, still hushed, it carried more intent. It wasn't just a hum anymore. She was genuinely singing. Maybe she hadn't practiced much before. Maybe she just watched her dad perform. But to make the shadow play enjoyable for the lamb, she was giving it her best shot. Shadow play needs teamwork. She acted seriously, so I had to keep up. I focused on controlling Zhang Fei. He wielded his serpent spear, bold and fierce, at the city gates. I imagined a brave hero with a leopard-like head. With bated breath, I moved the sticks, controlling the puppets, their shadows dancing on the screen. I brought my vision of Zhang Fei to life on screen. Mansui played the drum softly, while singing along, and I followed her lead. I brought Zhang Fei onto the stage and then introduced Lu Bu, Guan Yu, and Liu Bei one by one. The lambs were all eyes, watching the screen intently as they clapped along with Mansui's drumming, adding to our performance. However, when it came time to control 2 characters battling at once, my hands couldn't keep up. I struggled to manage with only 1 hand per character, making my movements stiff and awkward. Mansui noticed, and I was having a tough time. She kept singing but got up, handed the drums to Chonghua and Hong. The drums still sounded as the other lambs took Mansui's place, while she sat beside me. Taking Lu Bu from me, she joined my Zhang Fei on stage. Serpent Spear clashed with Heaven cleaving Painting Halberd as they rushed back and forth, fighting each other to their heart's content. As the battle reached its climax, Mansui began to sing again, while the lambs in front of the white screen intensified their efforts. As they tried to keep up with our pace, their drumming grew somewhat chaotic. Even though the rhythm got messy like the random falling of raindrops, it still added to the fun. Before the screen, drums thumped steadily, while on it, weapons clashed and figures swirled in a frenzy of action. The screen was a spectacle of fantastic action, and we all lost ourselves in its shadow and sheen. The 3 heroes' battle Lu Bu was done. The stick puppets drooped like they lost their spirit, plopping onto the stand. She stopped singing, and the lambs put down their drums. Even afterward, the lambs were still excited for quite a while. For Hong and Q, it was their first shadow play experience. They were curious how we controlled the puppets in battles, so they eagerly peeked behind the screen. For Chonghua, it was her first time seeing a shadow play since she had been away from her family for so long. I don't know when she last saw one, but the wistful look on her face gave the impression she was reminiscing about something special. For me, this show seemed to have finally brought me out of the shadow of the past. Explosions were replaced by drum beats, cries by laughter, and the fire's crackling took on new meaning. The shadow play overshadowed the nightmare. My haunting past, the explosion in the 6th year of Tianxi, is slowly becoming something I can face. Soon after, the lambs dozed off. Mansui and I tidied up our things in the wooden box and had a brief chat.
梁爷，
What's so funny?
他们挺喜欢我们演的戏呢，不仅看得投入，还等我们一起演。刚才演到最后的时候，我们都像是一个戏班子了。
Ha, a bandit with 4 little girls isn't much of a troupe though. I laughed softly, replying to Mansui. After saying that, my smile suddenly froze, and I stayed silent for a while. Just now, without realizing it, I didn't call them lambs, but used the term girls for the first time. That surprised me and made me feel a bit uncomfortable about the change. Sure, I made up my mind to protect their lives and not sell them off as lamb dishes anymore. But when I reach Haizo, I'll still have to sell them to make money. So, shouldn't I avoid getting too close to them? In the end, I'm still a bandit. Mansui seemed to catch on to my different way of talking and the sudden pause. She didn't say anything about it, just quietly put the wooden boxes in the pack horse pack. A bit later, I thought she was going to sleep, but then she suddenly asked me a question.
话说梁爷，有件事我还是很想知道。
What is it?
梁爷说过，你和你爹曾因今后要做什么而闹矛盾。很久以前，在那一场大爆炸发生之前，在梁爷小的时候，你想成为什么样的人呢？
You still care about that, huh? She sure doesn't let things go easily, remembering that I didn't tell her back then. That's my own secret, and it's been so many years since then, there isn't much to say about it.
为什么呀？
I was getting fed up with her constant pestering. And then she spoke up again.
那这样吧，梁爷若是同我讲你的这个秘密，我也告诉你一个我的秘密。
Her secret? This lass had seemed to be hiding something from me all this time? If I could find out, it might put my mind at ease. I could agree to this exchange condition. Fine. It's just an old dream from back then. Now it has long disappeared. It doesn't hurt anyway. I let out a sigh. This lass did arouse my curiosity. I really wanted to know her secret, so I gave in. When I was coming of age, I loved watching plays. They often featured different kinds of heroes, some like gods, some generals, some knight errants. The first two seemed too distant to me. I knew I couldn't suddenly gain supreme powers, and I didn't feel like I had the talent to lead armies into battle. So I always dreamed of being a wandering hero. One person, one set of clothes, and one sword. I dreamed of traveling around, doing good deeds, fighting the lofty, and helping the weak. You almost sound like Rurouni Kenshin, except Kenshin wasn't necessarily a hero. I wrapped up sharing my dream. Yep, my dream back then was quite naive and pure. Just like most boys around, I wanted to be a hero. Mansui didn't seem too surprised, like she already knew my dream. Then after a moment, thought she asked me a question.
那为什么梁爷现在没这个梦想了？
She asked, her tone serious, no more playful expressions. I gave a wry smile. Because in this world, there's no place for a hero to thrive. After the disaster that year, I fled the famine, and everything I saw and heard during that journey shattered my dreams. Those who died were often righteous and kind, while those who survived were selfish and cunning. Heroes thrive in times of peace and perish in times of chaos, while villains thrive in chaos and perish in peace. Clearly, we're in times of chaos. I said these words blandly. I told you what I dreamed of. Now it's your turn to spill the beans. What's your secret? I glanced at Mansui. Fair is fair. After hearing about my crushed dream, she ought to tell me something too.
好，讲之前想先说一句，抱歉之前骗了梁爷。
Mansui lowered her head slightly, seeming remorseful. Huh?
其实，我之前跟梁爷说爹娘在洛阳等我，是骗梁爷的。我的爹娘早就死了，现在家里只剩我一人了。姐姐死后，爹娘曾去闹，吞妖派人断了他们的粮，爹娘没多久就饿死了。我拿了他们最后留的粮，一路逃荒，死里逃生，才到了化州。
She said these words with indifference. Finding out all this suddenly, I felt that it was out of my expectation, yet reasonable. She always seemed off. Traversing a great distance and risking her life in revenge for her sister when her parents were still waiting for her didn't add up. Turns out, they weren't waiting. They were gone. That's why you had to go to Liang for revenge.
家里的人都死了后，我本来也没想独活。我活到现在，就是为了有一天能亲手报仇。
Well, I asked, and she replied steadfastly. And while her voice held strength and determination, it was nevertheless tinged with a sorrow I could hardly understand. We felt quiet. No more words between us. It wasn't until tonight that I was told everything. I never knew we were the same. Lost our homes in the chaos, both orphaned and alone. But while I became a wandering villain drifting with the tide, she turned into a vengeful spirit bent on revenge. Thinking back to our first meeting when she tried to stab me and I spanked her, I was able to better understand why she had such a forlorn manner back then. I told her then, lie to me, and I'll wipe your family out. She just went quiet and walked off alone like a stray cat, because her family was gone. Nothing left for me to hunt down. Should I help her get revenge? Or persuade her to forget it? If I were her, could I stop myself? Or could I find the guts to go for revenge? I didn't know. With so many questions spinning around, I finally fell asleep. The excitement from the shadow play was gone, and depression took its place. I couldn't wait to dive into dreams and lose myself in the void, sorry. That night, I slept deeper than ever.